So, I thought you'd want a Twitter update. I did hear again from the president of our homeowners association. You will build the wall and you will pay for it. And you can't sing. He's not always wrong. Thank you for indulging us in those carpool karaoke videos. The material can get a little dry throughout the day, and so having a little fun we thought would be a little bit of a break for you in between speakers. So we actually were hoping to get to this spot and be a little bit ahead of schedule, which we are. And that would allow me to give you a bit of an ESSA update since we couldn't fit that into the schedule, or we didn't think we could. And let me say one other thing. Mao just mentioned the science waiver. We are working on a response for the U.S. Department of Education. The one thing that you don't have to concern yourself with is the CST, right? So there is no CST. There will never be another CST to be given. You don't have to concern yourself with that. This is our negotiations now with the U.S. Department of Education as to what we are doing this school year. So speaking of the U.S. Department of Education, the State Board did approve our ESSA state plan at the September State Board meeting. So that has been submitted to the U.S. Department of Education for review. Just so you know where the timeline is. By law, they have 120 days to get back to us. We assume that they'll get back to us sooner than that. They go through a peer review process in which they, just like it sounds, bring in peers from across the country to review those state plans and provide back comments. Now, those comments may be things that the U.S. Department of Education determines things that we need to correct in our plan, or they may just be comments from the peer reviewers that we may want to consider as suggestions or recommendations, and not necessarily something that would stand in the way of getting an approval of that state plan. The peer review process is scheduled to take place the first week of November, or around the first week of November. So we anticipate hearing back from the U.S. Department of Education sometime that month. We are anticipating that it won't be in time for us to do anything at the November State Board regarding making any kind of update or changes to the plan. But we do anticipate, and we've kind of set aside the idea of having time at the January meeting to make some updates or revisions to the plan as needed. We think that the U.S. Department of Education more recently, in reviewing the plans, have been a little less critical than at the start. So not turning in our plan first was a good decision. I think they've learned from that process. We've learned from that process. And when we put together our state plan, the state plan that the board approved, it was a very lean, specifically so, lean application for funding. So, and we responded to the prompts that were given in the template, and that's the plan that was approved by the state board. It was never intended to be a document that would provide some strategic plan of all the things that are happening in California, and there are a lot of things happening in California. That plan was never intended to be that sort of whole picture of everything that was happening in our state, because we know that the U.S., well, history tells us that the U.S. Department of Education will use that plan and hold us to certain aspects of things that are written into that plan. So if we can avoid talking about things that are not related to meeting federal statute and have them try to hold us to certain things that we write in that plan, then it made good sense to keep that plan very lean and just responding to the prompts. That actually brought some criticism from some groups who wanted us to talk a little bit more in that plan about our commitment to equity. Let me be very clear on our commitment to equity. I've been at the department for 25 years. I can speak very specifically for the last dozen years, in which almost every single press release that we have done, whether it be for assessment, whether it be for graduation rates or dropout rates or suspension rates, always highlights where our gaps are and where we need to put more emphasis. We were the first state in the nation to combine our ELA and ELD standards. The board has approved the guiding principles around an EL roadmap for the state to follow. We were the first in the nation to report on our website and report to school districts who long-term English learners are and to put it into our accountability system. We were the first in the nation to have a seal of biliteracy for high school students who demonstrate that proficiency, and we are including it in our accountability plan. Our dashboard is all about where gaps are for students and the students that need to succeed most. Right? The dashboard is all about that and the gaps of performance. Later on today, Cindy Kazanis will come up and talk about some of the details and the latest decisions around that dashboard. So I just want to be clear that the California Department of Education, the State Board of Education, the governor, the legislature, we are all about equity and closing gaps. We already had a question that came in from one of the cards that asked about our assessment scores. I mentioned before that we'd released assessment scores, as you know. They were a little delayed, as you also know, for good reason. Most of you are probably the context that receive the preview of the assessment scores. We do that not just to give you a heads up of what's going on our website, but to allow you to look at those assessment scores and make sure they're accurate. Because we do spot checking, in Sacramento. But with the number of LEAs we have, there's no way that we can find every error that might exist, especially if they're in small pockets across the state. We won't see that. Those anomalies won't show up in a statewide review. So we review the file, we give you the preview so that you can find anything wrong with it and so that we can make corrections, which we did. And that's why the files were late. But let me make sure that you understand clearly, which you probably do, but make sure other people back in your district understand clearly there was nothing wrong with any of the student scores. There was nothing wrong with any of those student score reports that went out. There was nothing wrong with any of the scores on the online reporting system. When we get ready to post a site on our website, we get a separate file from the online reporting system. It's a separate file from what goes into student score reports. And it's that file that ends up getting posted to our website. It's that file that had the errors in it. Nothing wrong with any of the student scores, and please take that back for anyone who might be questioning that. There was also a question already submitted. Why were the scores flat? Why did we have flat scores this year? And why does there seem to be that happening across other smarter balanced states where scores are flat? So let me say a couple of things about this. One, it wasn't in this card or in this question, but from another source was actually questioning, was there something wrong with the test? Were the questions harder this year and therefore our students didn't do as well? Then there was another theory, were the questions too easy and therefore targeted kids lower than the previous year? Right? Guessing doesn't do us any good, right? We have already asked Smarter Balance, and they have produced for us an item analysis review that shows the difficulty of the test items last year and this year results that just came out. No significant difference that would indicate that any of that had anything to do with the scores, right? That's not the end of it. That was just the start. We do have a collaboration conference with Smarter Balance and Smarter Balance States in October. Along with that collaboration conference is the Technical Advisory Committee. These are some of the best psychometricians in the nation that are part of this Technical Advisory Committee, and they will address this issue. That's not for you to be concerned about. right? That's for us to investigate, and we will do our due diligence as we do every year with these assessments, reviewing the results and looking at the administration to see if there were any anomalies that need to be addressed. That's our work. And as a member of the Executive Committee of Smarter Balance, that's my work to take back in October to that Technical Advisory Committee to make sure that those issues are addressed. So any questions remaining out there get addressed. What you need to concern yourself with is good teaching and learning, because we know good teaching and learning eventually is going to show up on those assessments. I think we got lulled a little bit from the previous year's results. I mean, who expected 5 and 6 point gains, right? No one did. And I think suddenly some of us, including myself, got a little bit lulled into thinking that this test wasn't quite as hard and these standards weren't quite as hard as we originally talked about them being. Well, this confirms it, right? We've raised the bar on the standards. The assessment matches those standards. It's a more difficult test because they're more difficult standards and they're more difficult to teach, right? So that is the reason. If there's some technical reason that added to any of that, we'll get to the bottom of it, but I don't suspect that's the reason. I think we need to go back to our original premise, which is the fact that this is a harder test and harder standards. So let me also give you a little bit more of an ESSA update. Remember I said that plan on the state plan was lean? It is indeed lean. That's not all of the things that are going on in assessment, either in your district or at the State Department of Education. Michelle Center and I both made an emphasis of working with our partners within the California Department of Education, and it's not just in my branch. Tom Adams is the deputy superintendent. I may be your favorite deputy. Thank you, Red Dog. But Tom Adams is the deputy over curriculum and instruction. We're working very closely to make that connection with instruction and teaching and professional learning to the assessment. In fact, we are taking with us to that Smarter Balance meeting in October Stephanie Gregson, who's the director of our curriculum and frameworks division, and the new director of our professional learning support division, Barbara Murchison, who some of you may know. She's been leading the effort on the ESSA state plan, was just announced as the director of the professional learning support division. We're taking both of those people back with us to that Smarter Balance meeting because we want to continue to make that connection between curriculum, instruction, and assessment. And we are working with our partners outside of CDE. You may have noticed that the state board, if you follow it, with the state board, a lot of emphasis maybe 2 years ago was all about getting Smarter Balance, running and operating smoothly. As that happened, they kind of transitioned over, started working on the accountability system, putting most of their emphasis there. Then along came ESSA. So the shift had to be to the ESSA state plan, which is now submitted. Circling back at the same time, they were doing the accountability system on our dashboard. That is just about finished, putting the final touches on it. December will, as Cindy will talk about, the new dashboard will come out. And so the emphasis now will start moving toward that system of support. What are we going to do for those schools and districts that are identified? First, districts this year, in December, will be identified under our state LCFF law for support. For the federal law, in identifying the lowest 5% of schools that ESSA requires, the state board has made some decisions, but we won't be able to identify the districts in which those schools reside. That's targeted for 18-19 to provide support for them. So there's a timeline in place, and we're working with our partners outside of the department to make sure that we're putting together a system of support that is coordinated in a collaborative manner between the California Department of Education, our partners at the county offices, because the county offices are the first responders, if you will, when it comes to providing support to school districts. So we're working with ESSA, that County Superintendent's Association. So our county office partners, we're working with CCEE, the Collaborative for Education Excellence, who is also in state statute to provide assistance. And of course, we're working with CDE and our state board as well. So in this partnership across state agencies, we're meeting every 3 months to collaborate, to coordinate the work so that it makes sense to you out there in the field. Let me say one last thing, and that is aside, and let me check my time, because, oh, perfect. So we'll get to our break a little early. So we do have to have an LEA plan approved as well, right? So we have our LCAP, and that's been our emphasis. And we've made it very clear in our ESSA state plan in what we call the California way, which is not just some people say, oh, you're just being stubborn. That's the California way. Well, it might be. But the California way is about letting the state decide what the state needs to do and then figure out how the federal government fits into that. Right. There's a great slide that I don't have with me to show you, but it shows how much money goes to school and districts that's from state sources, state and local sources. And then on top of it, how much of that money is federal? Very small amount. So when you look at all of the money, very small amount of it is from the federal government. So it's like the old saying, you know, don't let the tail wag the dog. That's what the California way is about. We don't want the federal tail wagging the state dog, right? This is a state plan. We want to do what California needs to do, and then we'll figure out how the federal funding and the federal requirements fit into that plan. But one of those requirements is for LEAs to have a plan. You may remember how many were actually around and participated in their LEA plan review when NCLB started. Some hands? Not very many. Right? And that may be because you're more on the assessment side and that was a different part of your district that wrote that. I was around, I wasn't directly working on that LEA plan, but that was like 2003 was the last time we had a requirement for an LEA plan, and since then it's just been kind of updating it as we go along. Right? This time around we have the LCAP. We have our local control accountability plan, and that's what we want to drive our strategic decisions in our school districts. And we do not want the LEA plan interfering with that strategic plan. So fairly soon, if you haven't seen it already, we're piloting with some districts out there. There'll be an October information memo to the state board about what we're referring to as the LCAP Federal Addendum. LCAP Federal Addendum, in which we take the requirements of the LEA plan. We realize many of those are already embedded into our LCAP, so you get credit for that. The rest of the things that are in this LEA plan that are required by law that aren't necessarily in the LCAP, we're not going to force you to throw it in, cram it into your LCAP, right? Because we want to keep that LCAP as much as possible a strategic document. So we've created this addendum, and this addendum will have 3 options. You can complete it as a separate document. You can put it into your LCAP if you choose and just tell us what page or pages you respond to this element in your LCAP. Or if you have a different document in your school district that describes that federal requirement, give us that document and tell us where it's listed. So we're trying as much as possible to, again, let our state plan, the LCAP, drive what you're doing in schools and in districts, and not the federal LEA plan requirements. So with that, I get the great pleasure of allowing you to start your break 4 minutes early.